Chapter 15. Designing Effective Organizations. Few organizations could hope to compare with Google in terms of raw success. Our opening vignette focuses on Google co-founders Sergey Brin and Larry Page and offers us much to consider as we study how to design an effective organization. After you have read the material in Chapter 15, you should be able to describe the 4 characteristics common to all organizations, explain the difference between closed and open systems, and define 7 basic ways organizations are structured. You should also be able to discuss Burns and Stalker's findings regarding mechanistic or organic organizations and identify when each of the organizational structures is appropriate. Finally, you should be able to describe the 4 generic organizational effectiveness criteria. Chapter 15 discusses the importance of effective organizational designs. As you know, organizational behavior uses terms and concepts in specific ways. Let's begin our discussion of effective organizational design with a basic question. What is an organization? Formally defined, an organization is a system of consciously coordinated activities of 2 or more people. There are 4 common denominators across all organizational structures. These are the coordination of effort, the specification of a common goal, an appropriate division of labor, and the hierarchy of authority appropriate to the degree of complexity of the organization, its structure, and its processes. An important principle of management and of the organization that is being designed is the unity of command principle. This states that each employee should report to a single manager. It should never be the case where an employee is reporting to more than one direct manager. How do individuals both within and outside the organization make sense of the organization structure? In other words, what does the organization look like? How is it structured? How many levels of management are there? Who reports to whom? And so on. The answer to these questions can be found in the organizational chart. The organization chart is an illustration using boxes and lines that show the chain of formal authority and the division of labor within the organization. Organizational charts illustrate the hierarchy of positions within the organization and formal reporting relationships. The chart also specifies whether a given position has line or staff authority and responsibility. Staff personnel are those who provide research, advice, and recommendations to line managers. Line managers are those who have the authority to make organizational decisions. To put it another way, staff positions support line functions. Organization charts also provide a look at the various reporting relationships within the organization. The span of control is illustrated in the organization chart in that it shows the number of people who directly report to a given manager. Organizations today exist in a global environment. Scholars argue that to effectively design organizations that are responsive to their dynamic global environments, managers and leaders need to have a perspective called open system thinking, an approach that looks at an organization like an organism that must constantly interact with its environment to survive. To better understand this perspective, we contrast the open system thinking approach with that of a closed system. A closed system is a self-sufficient entity that is closed to the surrounding environment. It is safe to say that today most organizations are in need of a more open systems thinking approach due to the degree of globalization and the pervasiveness of technology. Next, we turn to the topic of traditional design. Organizations defined by the traditional approach may have functional, divisional, and/or matrix structures, which we will address in the next slide. A functional structure groups people according to the business functions they perform, for example, manufacturing, marketing, and finance. By contrast, in a divisional structure, the organization groups activities related to outputs, such as type of product or type or location of customer. Continuing from the previous slide, a matrix structure combines functional and divisional chains of command to form a grid with 2 command structures, one shown vertically according to function and the other shown horizontally by product line, brand, customer group, or geographic region. Figure 15-3 of your textbook provides a visual example of what a matrix structure might look like in a given organization. We now consider the so-called hollow organization. A hollow organization results from outsourcing. The organization's managers identify functions the organization can do better and more profitably than their competitors, and focus on these functions while outsourcing other functions. The more processes that are outsourced, the more the resulting organization is hollow and focused on what it does best. We now come to the virtual organization. An organization may identify partners to create a virtual organization, which is a company outside a company, created specifically to respond to an exceptional market opportunity that is often temporary. The organization identifies partners with the needed talents and negotiates an agreement in which the participants typically work in separate facilities. The facilities are linked by technology as they work toward a common goal, such as developing a new product or entering a new market. Organizations have been analyzed from a number of different perspectives. For example, organizations can be characterized as having a mechanistic structure or an organic structure. Mechanistic organizations are those that have rigid bureaucracies with strict rules, narrowly defined tasks, and top-down communication and control. Organic organizations, on the other hand, are characterized by flexible networks of multi-talented individuals who perform a variety of tasks. The central difference between mechanistic and organic organizations is that rigidity is a core value in a mechanistic structure, whereas flexibility is the core value in an organic structure. Organizations can also be analyzed and evaluated based on their models of decision-making. There are two fundamental approaches to decision-making in organizations. Centralized decision-making is an approach where top management controls information and makes all important decisions. By contrast, decentralized decision-making is an approach where the decision-making authority has been delegated down to lower levels of management who have been empowered to make important decisions. In a decentralized system, decisions are usually made closest to where the impact of the decision will be felt. Organizational effectiveness is at the heart of organizational behavior. Research has found that there are 4 dimensions that impact organizational effectiveness: goal accomplishment, internal processes, strategic constituencies satisfaction, and resource acquisition. These 4 dimensions are shown here and in Figure 15-4 of your textbook. It is the interrelationship among the 4 dimensions that determine whether or not an organization will be effective. Let's discuss each of the 4 dimensions that determine organizational effectiveness, starting with the first 2. Goal accomplishment is the most widely used effectiveness criteria. To the extent that an organization achieves its goals, it is seen as being effective. Another dimension is that of resource acquisition. That is, an organization can be seen as effective if it acquires necessary factors for production or the delivery of services. It should be noted that if an organization is unable to attain resources, then it would not be able to attain its goals. Continuing from the last slide, the remaining 2 criteria for organizational effectiveness are internal processes and strategic constituencies satisfaction. The internal processes of an organization will produce a healthy system if information flows smoothly and if employees are loyal, committed, and have a positive sense of fulfillment or job satisfaction with the organization. Of course, there are also external stakeholders that need to be satisfied by organizations. These can be customers, suppliers, or investors, for example. The 4th criterion in determining organizational effectiveness evaluates strategic constituencies satisfaction. That is, any strategic constituency, any group of people with a stake in the organization's operation or success, must have their needs satisfied if the organization is to be deemed effective. This concludes the lecture on Chapter 15. Apply the concepts that you've learned in the end-of-chapter materials, such as the ethical dilemma, has electronic monitoring gone too far, and take a practice quiz on the Online Learning Center, www.mhhe.com/KINICKIOB4E.